Oh boy. This could be a long video. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like or a comment. It's free and really helps the channel.
Prime Minister, we're talking Prime Minister Scott Morrison. You ever told a lie in public life?
I don't believe I have. No.
Scott Morrison asked again whether he stood by his denial of ever lying to the Australian public.
That's what I believe to be true, and if, what are you suggesting? When do you think I did?
So Scott Morrison believes that he has never told a lie in public life. Let's roll the tape.
Minister, why was it racist to question Gladys Liu's connections to China, but it wasn't racist to call Sam Dastyari Shanghai Sam?
I didn't use either of those phrases, so...
It's about Shanghai Sam, and he's got to go. Shanghai Sam. Shanghai Sam. Shanghai Sam. Shanghai Sam.
Leadership ambitions, anyone?
Can you rule out having any leadership ambitions?
Me?
Yeah.
This is my leader.
There you go.
And I'm ambitious for him.
Yeah, good on you. Thanks, Scomo.
2 days later.
Good afternoon. As you're all aware, there was a ballot conducted in the party room for the leadership of the Liberal Party. The successful candidate was Scott Morrison.
Oh, he's lied to me on many occasions. I mean, there's quite a few examples in my book, but Scott has always had a reputation for telling lies. I mean, look, you're all in the press gallery, right? You know that.
Australia Post.
She's been instructed to stand aside, and if she doesn't wish to do that, Mr. Speaker, she can go.
Ms Holgate decided to leave Australia Post. That's just a matter of record.
Ooh-wee, electric vehicle.
Honestly screwed electric vehicles when you campaigned against them in the last election.
But I didn't. That is just a Labor lie. It's not going to tow your trailer. It's not going to tow your boat. It's not going to get you out to your favourite camping spot with your family. Bill Shorten wants to end the weekend when it comes to his policy on electric vehicles.
Prime Minister, you can't honestly say you weren't attacking electric vehicles, it was just Bill Shorten's policy.
No, I can, because that's true. It's not going to tow your trailer. It's not going to tow your boat.
That statement was not true in 2019. Need proof?
It's not going to tow your trailer. It's not going to tow your boat. It's not going to tow your trailer. It's not going to tow your boat. It's not going to tow your trailer. It's not going to tow your boat.
In 2019 on 2GB, you said, what about all these charging stations? How much is that going to cost? I mean, if you have an electric car and you live in an apartment, are you going to run the extension cord down from your fourth floor window? Yet now, today, you're focusing on infrastructure. So you have to admit it's a fairly big conversion you've made.
No, what we're seeing here is a massive change in the technology over the last few years.
3 years
Yes, a massive change. There's been a massive change in technology over the last few years.
In short, according to the Chief Executive of the Electric Vehicle Council, there have been no significant changes to electric vehicle technology in the past 3 years.
It's a massive backflip, isn't it? What changed your view? It was almost a come to Jesus moment for you.
Well, Bill Shorten and the Labor Party wanted to force people to do this, and I still don't want to do that.
Prime Minister, the Labor Party weren't forcing people, were they? It wasn't a mandate at the last election that they were introducing. It was a non-binding target of 50%. Wasn't that the same as yours?
Yeah, well, no, they were going to put up the price of fuel.
Submarines. On September 16, 2021, Morrison sparked an international diplomatic incident.
So noted, we will not be continuing with the attack-class submarine program and have advised the Naval Group and, of course, the Government of France and President Macron of that decision.
Clearly this did not go over well with France, with the French president accusing Morrison of lying.
Good luck. Can you trust Scott Morrison again? Can you trust Scott Morrison again?
We discussed. I do respect.
Can you trust him though?
I mean, we will see what he will deliver.
Do you think he lied to you?
I don't think. I know. I don't think. I know.
In return, there was a text message leak, which has gone on to become a common theme in the Morrison government.
The ambassador to Australia has said that relations are now at an unprecedented low because personal messages between you and President Macron were leaked.
Well, I was very, very clear about what that communication was, and that was necessary given the matters that were raised.
The media played up budget blowouts and delays. In September 2021, the French claimed they had been deceived and had received assurances from Australia on the day the deal would end up being cancelled. Finally, in February 2022, documents released under Freedom of Information appear to prove what the French were saying was true.
An email from Defence Secretary Greg Moriarty to Greg Samet in the submarine program thanked him for a comprehensive update on the contract.
I will ensure that the good progress to date is part of the advice we take to government, and you will hear that message repeated in the 2+2 with France and in other engagements. Regards, Greg.
The officials noted French shipbuilder Naval was working well with the Commonwealth and that the updated cost estimate was $46 billion within the $50 billion budget. Malcolm Turnbull, what do these documents tell us that we didn't know about the submarine deal with the French?
Well, they confirm that the submarine program for the new attack-class submarines was on track, was in good shape, was progressing well, and was well within its budget. Now, that's completely different to what the Australian government told the American government, whom they told it was blowing its budget and it was off the rails. And it was completely different to what was written up in the media constantly. So it basically confirms the French, as a result of what you're saying, had every reason to believe that they'd been lied to, particularly at the 2+2 meeting. Yes, the French, absolutely. The French were misled by Australia, which is shameful, and the Americans were misled by Australia, as Joe Biden demonstrated when he made it quite clear publicly to President Macron that he had been led to believe that the French were aware that the project was going to be cancelled.
And this gift keeps on giving. Back before he was Prime Minister, Scott Morrison appeared on an episode of Q&A, expressing his thoughts on the news that the Victorian police chief at the time of the Black Saturday bushfires had gone to dinner at a restaurant while the fires were burning.
Let's hear from Scott Morrison on this.
Look, that was a very big event. She's clearly made a bad judgment call. That happens to people from time to time, but this was a very serious issue, and I think there are very serious concerns in the community about exercising judgment. And it's incumbent on all of us in public life to make decisions following that in the best interests of the ongoing nature of the program.
Almost 10 years later, Morrison would find himself running the country during one of the worst fire seasons on record. With half of Australia on fire, the country was looking for a leader. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be the Prime Minister, because no one knew where he was. This sorry saga kicked off when New South Wales Greens MP, David Shoebridge, tweeted, questioning where the Prime Minister was and sharing a rumour that the PM was in Hawaii. Obviously this led to questions.
So where the bloody hell are you?
At first the Prime Minister's office denied he was on holidays. Then, once it was clear that he was holidaying, his office denied that he was holidaying in Hawaii. Remember, at this point in time half of Australia was on fire. Finally, a few days after the saga began, airport sources confirmed Morrison had jetted off to Hawaii.
The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, is getting hammered tonight for quietly going on a holiday to Hawaii while large parts of the nation burn.
Cue the photos on social media. The man himself called 2GB to confirm he was in Hawaii and left the country with this little soundbite.
I know Australians understand this and they'll be pleased I'm coming back, I'm sure, but they know that, I don't hold a hose, mate.
Let's skip forward a couple of years.
When my electorate was burning, the Prime Minister's office told journalists he was not on holiday in Hawaii. Why did the Prime Minister's office say that when it wasn't true?
I can only speak to what I have said, Mr Speaker, and as the Leader of the Opposition will know, because I texted him from the plane when I was going on that leave and told him where I was going, and he was fully aware of where I was travelling with my family.
Mr Speaker, that is not true. On the 15th of December 2019 at 9:44 p.m, the Prime Minister did text me saying he was going on leave. He did not tell me where he was going. He said he was going with his family. I kept that text message confidential, as you do with private text messages between private phones.
Yeah,
and on the Friday, He disclosed in an interview with 2GB that he had texted me, and that was the first time that that became public. But at no stage did he tell me where he was going.
Oh yeah, there was this palaver.
There's a report in the Wall Street Journal that an invitation was sought to the White House for Hillsong pastor Brian Houston, a friend of yours, and that was knocked back. Can you tell us what happened there?
I don't comment on gossip, honestly.
So it's not true?
Yeah, it's all gossip. Yeah.
Did you actually put a request in for him to
I don't
to
comment on gossip of stories about other stories.
Does that mean it's not true, though?
It means it's gossip.
But not true?
It means it's gossip.
But not true?
I think I've answered the question.
It relates to your trip to Washington last year and whether or not you asked the Trump administration to invite the Hillsong founder Brian Houston to the White House State Dinner. Did you seek an invitation to the White House State Dinner for Brian Houston?
Well, I've known Brian for a long time, and Hillsong Church has a very big network of churches all across the United States. On that occasion, we put forward a number of names. I mean, that included Brian, but not everybody whose names were put forward were invited.
Vaccines. Jeepers. Remember March 2021? When Morrison was asked about the pace of the vaccination rollout, he'd quite often unleash this little beauty.
It's not a race, it's not a competition. Race, it's not a competition, it's not a race. You've got to get it right, and it's got to be safe. It's not a race, it's not a competition.
Months later, with the vaccine rollout becoming a strollout, Morrison was trying to rewrite history.
Earlier in this pandemic, you said the vaccine rollout was not a race. Now you're saying it's like a gold medal run at the Olympics. If you treated it as a race from the start, would we be in this mess?
When Professor Murphy and I made those remarks, we were talking about the regulation of the vaccines, Nat. I'm not sure people are aware of that. I know my critics have used them against me, but we've always been treating this with the greatest of urgency. Well, no, we were talking, as I said, about the regulation of the vaccines.
Trying to argue that, all through March he was referring to regulations and making sure the vaccines went through the proper approvals, is laughable. Particularly given that Morrison himself issued a media release on January 25, 2021, declaring that the Pfizer vaccine had been approved. AstraZeneca was then approved a couple of weeks later on February 16th. So on the 31st of March, when he was still spouting this.
It's not a race, it's not a competition.
The vaccine had been approved for months and was already in use. In fact, Morrison himself was one of the first in line for the jab. The Federal Anti-Corruption Commission. There was a big announcement and a promise in December 2018. Then we waited. And waited. And waited. The opposition got tired of waiting.
It is now more than 1,000 days since Scott Morrison promised to have a national anti-corruption body. Well, tick-tock, Mr. Morrison. We need a national anti-corruption commission, one with teeth, one that operates independently of government, is able to conduct its own inquiries. And if you won't give the Australian people one, a federal Labor government will do just that.
Then February 7, 2022, we are told that a Federal Integrity Commission will have to wait until after the election. When someone says that they will do something, but don't deliver, is that technically a lie? Maybe not, but it should raise some trust issues. Did I miss your favorite Scomocchio Furphy? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Pickles out.